tiles, at each place one of the ever-so-subtly unmatched blue willow plates, and above the sideboard the plangent reds and golds and deep umbers of 492. My God. Bœuf en daube, mushrooms and pearl onions, petits pois, crème brûlée. In those days we ate like kings. Eventually, 492, the number of objects in the painting, got confiscated along with smaller and darker 53 that used to hang above my parents' bed. My mother said I was counting like a bank teller when I told her I couldn't find more than 49. I'll never forget the smell in that room. Witch hazel, honey, wet dirt. Out the window, the silver light of the Maine seacoast, and on the bed, Uncle Tony sitting with his head in his arms, sobbing. But that came later. The idea for the walking tour began with Ruth Farr, whose urge to follow in the footsteps of the legendary Manawydan on his journey through Bronze Age Wales was yet one more doomed attempt to seem as interestingly compulsive as my mother. Ruth was always saying things like, "Au fond, I'm a dancer," or "Fashion is my passion," with a perfectly straight face. Her idea this time having been to write the kind of historical novel where fact vanishes in a haze of myth and romance. A Fall of Mist, it was to be called, or maybe The Fall of Mist, and based on an ancient tale about Manawydan found in the Mabinogion. A plan doomed to fail if ever there was one. Like you could ever hope to block out your own dull self, and with it the present. A gang of strag boys with measuring cups, going bang, bang, bang on your door. Sometimes 4 or 5 of them, sometimes only the one, banging away in that preposterous, dust-caked wig. Ruth was about the same age as Manawydan when he made the trip, though he was sent by his father and ended his days in the other world, while Ruth and company bogged down on the Gower Peninsula. Also, while Manawydan was known as one of the 3 ungrasping chieftains and took discretion for the better part of valor, Ruth never had a problem appropriating someone else's property. Like many weak people, she was obsessed with the idea of fairness and, consequently, litigious. Without her, there'd have been no trial after the disaster at Gower. According to Ruth's journal, she and Carole first met in Mrs. Hecht's second-grade class at Henry Clay Elementary School, where Carole, a new girl and good at memorizing, got the part of Miss Springtime, even though she was fat and couldn't act, while Stringbean Ruthie, the former apple of Mrs. Hecht's eye, was stuck playing a worm. Naturally, they weren't friends. Actual friendship, if you could call it that, came 30 years later, when Carole's good-looking husband chose Ruth's clever husband to be his right-hand man, and the next thing Ruth knew, she and Coleman were walking up a long driveway, bordered on both sides by acres and acres of grass, and there was a large blonde woman sloping toward them. At her heels, a dog so tall and with legs so long and thin, it looked like it was going to tip over. "Heavens," the woman said. "Little Ruthie Farr." But Ruth didn't actually recognize her childhood nemesis until the dog began to bark, and in place of a total stranger, there was 7-year-old Carole Ridingham, eyes fierce with apprehension as Mrs. Hecht handed back the spelling tests. Odd, Mrs. Hecht remarked. They'd both made exactly the same mistake. C-A-W-T. You'd almost suspect. And she shook her head, unable to entertain such a sinister idea. Meanwhile, it was as if no time had passed at all. Carole and Ruth still couldn't take their eyes off each other, like serial holders of the same title, vainly trying to figure out what they had in common. Maybe they were hampered by their jealousy, a key element under the circumstances. Nicest looks, most famous, best husband. In those days, Ruth did everything she could to play up her naturally snow-white skin, ebony black hair, and blood-red lips. Women wanted to look like dead young girls. It was the style, meaning another way to put death on the wrong track. I remember being afraid of her, particularly a large beauty mark.